Hi everyone, it's Dr. Lisa and Dr. Britt.
Hi guys.
And we're just outside Errol Street Chiropractic in the four-wheel drive. So we will explain to you why we're in the four-wheel drive today in a moment. But we're talking about stress today. Now, stress is just such a big word, and it's also a bit of a confusing topic as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to chat to you about the different forms of stress and how that affects the body, what some of the signs and symptoms are of stress that you may not be aware of, because stress can become quite chronic and then people don't even realise they're under stress. So
it becomes a normal way of functioning.
Just becomes normal. So we're going to chat about that and why we're sitting in the car. We're also going to introduce you to certain parts of the brain and really help you to understand about stress and how it can actually work physiologically and the effects that it can have on your body. So it's going to make a lot more sense to you. So if you're a type of person that's suffering from, stress and depression, anxiety, health issues, and you have chronic fatigue, and you've got all these aches and pains in your body, digestive issues, then you might just want to hang around, because we've got some really interesting information for you that might help. So, Dr. Britt, tell us the thing with stress is that there are actually quite a few forms of stress.
Definitely.
And your body doesn't know which one it is, because for your body all these forms are important for you to know, but your body will just think that they're all stress and they'll work on the same parts of the brain, whatever form of stress that you're in. So tell us about those three.
So when we're looking at your health, we're looking at your physical, emotional and your chemical health, and all three components need to be at their optimum for you to be working at your best. So in particular, studies have really shown that you cannot have full physical health if your emotional, your mental health is compromised, and that's a really big thing. So when our emotional health is under consistent strain and stress, we start to see something called sympathetic dominance, and this is when your sympathetic nervous system becomes highly activated for a prolonged period of time. So your sympathetic sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight response. So that's that involuntary action that comes into play when our body is dealt with a stressful situation. And under normal circumstances, that's okay to have short bursts of that. But for prolonged periods of your sympathetic nervous system being in an activated state, it starts to cause an array of different health issues, and that's what we want to talk to you today as well.
Exactly. So stress, physical, chemical and emotional. And they all end up being emotional, because even the physical stress, if you're in pain, that becomes, you've got your physical pain and you've got your emotional pain on top of that. So just to kind of clarify, because you may be hearing a lot about sympathetic dominance out there in the social media and just information out there about, just on health forums. So what is your sympathetic nervous system? Because it can get a little bit confusing for people. So I love big picture, and I love then to kind of get into it. So if we look at our nervous system, we've got two parts. We've got the somatic, which is the part that runs the arms and the legs and gets you moving, and then you've got the autonomic. So think of the autonomic nervous system as your automatic. So that's the part of the nervous system that controls organs, and you really don't worry about that. Okay, so you don't need to worry about that. The body will do that automatically. So the sympathetic works with the parasympathetic as a bit of a balance to really run that autonomic nervous system. So what we do want for good health is for our bodies to be in that parasympathetic state. So our sympathetic state is vital for our survival, so that is our fight or flight. But when we're under chronic stress, then that can stay turned on, and that's where a lot of health issues can arise. And this escapes a lot of people. So, people with chronic kind of problems that can't get diagnosed, then this might be an issue that you may need to know a little bit about. So now, Dr. Britt, can you explain to people why we're sitting in the car? What's the analogy that we're going to be using that's really going to help these guys to understand how that brain works and how they can then affect your cells and your physiology and give you those signs and symptoms that you might be getting now? So why are we sitting in the car?
So today we're breaking sympathetic dominance down and talking about what's happening in your brain when you're in a chronically activated sympathetic nervous system state. So our analogy is looking at a full drive. So we've got 2 parents in the front seat, and then we've got 5 siblings in the back. And then this is looking at the different areas of the brain. Okay, so if we put it into a bit of perspective, our parents in the front seat, they're a higher cortex of the brain. So it's their job to help dampen down that stressful situation and calm the siblings in the back seat. Okay, but the hard thing is when they're chronically acting up, it gets quite tiring on the higher cortex, which is the parents. Okay, so now when we then look at, after the higher cortex of the brain, which is the parents, we then look at what the siblings are doing in the back seat, and these are different areas of the brain that are acting up when you are in that chronically stressed state. So our number 1
is Murph. So Murph is the first one we're going to introduce you to.
Yeah.
And Murph is the instigator. He's the one that kind of, you know, works everyone, all the other kids, all his siblings in the back. So what part of the nervous system is Murph?
So Murph is the mesencephalic reticular formation in the brain. So he's the instigator for those other rowdy siblings, but Murph acts up once that sympathetic nervous system is activated. And so Murph then travels up and fires up to our upper body and activates all those muscles around our chest, and then fires down and starts activating our adrenal glands, and that's our stress area of the body as well. So in order for the other siblings to start acting up, this one has to start. So he's like the oldest sibling that starts annoying all the other younger siblings and starts that rowdiness in the back seat of the car as well.
So yeah, they're all having quite a bit of a party out in the back. But the next one we want to introduce you to is Ruby. So Ruby is the...
Where's Ruby?
Here.
Oh, Ruby's there. Sorry. They look the same. I was
Murph.
like, oh, where's Murph gone? Sorry.
They're all troublemakers.
Let you do your job.
So Ruby is the red nucleus.
Red nucleus.
So what does the red nucleus do?
So our red nucleus in the brain actually activates muscles under voluntary control. So we find when Ruby is activated in people who are sympathetically dominant, we find they've got really tight calf muscles, their chest, their shoulders are chronically tense. They're just those people that are constantly wound up, and we find them as well if they're constantly having massages to try and release their tight muscles, but nothing's happening. It's because that area of the brain isn't letting those muscles calm down. It's constantly activated and tensing up all those muscles as well.
Oh, we see that often in our office.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. There's Ruby. You've met Ruby. Now the next one is Susie. Susie is our superior colliculus in our brain. So what does that work on?
Yeah, so Susie is works on creating visual, so it's for our vision. Okay, so when Susie is quite annoyed and arcing up, we find with a lot of our patients they are sensitive to light. So they're those type of people that are constantly got their sunglasses on their head because the glare of the sun is always affecting them. They're really sensitive to light when trying to go to sleep. So when they're trying to rest their brain and just rest their body, that area of the brain is constantly wiring. So they're really sensitive to, say, if they've got an alarm clock with, light with electronic digits on there, they cannot have that in the room. Anything coming through the window, they need everything to be pitch black in order for them to actually rest and go to sleep as well. So we also find with those patients they actually have quite a dilated pupil, so that Susie actually dilates their pupil, and that's something that we see in sympathetic dominance, because when we're in that fight or flight response, it's an automatic thing for our pupil to dilate to take more of our surroundings in to help us survive that stressful situation as well.
But also, guys, don't check that in broad daylight, because our pupils will dilate obviously in the light. So do that inside, so otherwise you'll find that everyone is
and then you'll start stressing yourself out.
So yeah, just check Susie isn't overactive inside. Yeah. And the next one is the inferior colliculus. God, these guys are becoming neurologists.
I know.
And this is Indi. So we're going to introduce you to Indi. And when Indi is fired up in the back, what does Indi end up causing symptom-wise?
Indi makes us very sensitive to sound. So we find that we're quite reactive when we're in a loud environment. So say if we're in a cafe when it's really loud, we're in, shop and the music's up really loud, we find that we get quite overwhelmed being in that environment. Also find that we're very sensitive to any background noise. The kids talking can just overwhelm you, and they don't even have to be talking that loud. Also just like the TV, so just really sensitive to any type of sound. It really just fires that nervous system up too much as well.
Thank you, Indi. Now the last one is Ed. Ed is the Westfeldt Nucleus, and Ed's really interesting because
Ed needs all the other siblings to calm down for him to actually calm down and relax. So Ed actually comes into play for people who have been in that chronically sympathetic dominant state for quite a while, and Ed comes in and actually overrides Susie and actually constricts our pupil. So in order to actually calm Ed down, we need to make sure that we're looking at all the other elements of the brain. So all the other things that the siblings are causing our body to do, we need to work on trying to calm them down in order to calm Ed down as well.
Yeah, so that is really, really interesting. So it's really to get you to understand, okay, we have thrown in some big words, and not just to kind of say, hey, you know, look how clever we are, but it is really for you to understand how it's all connected.
And what your brain and your body are doing when you're under that really chronically stressed state for a period of time.
And it can, you know, be the thought of something in the future that hasn't even happened that might set off that stress in you. It might be, you know, something going on with you physically. It might be, you know, any kind of stresses in the day, or a combination of a few that if you don't work through, that can set off all of those parts of the brain, and it's hard then to get them under control when they've been set for so long. So this isn't to really diagnose you yourself, guys. It is just to give you some information that may indicate that this may be an issue. So we've actually got a list here that's a bit more comprehensive that people can kind of go through and tick to see if there might be an issue with sympathetic dominance. But you can private message us and we can send that to you. You can just tick that. Now we are sympathetic dominant protocol practitioners. This is a seminar and a book, and that's really been put out by Wayne Todd, who's written the SD protocol book. There is a protocol of what to do. So we've gone through. Dr. Britt's gone through what to look for some of the signs and symptoms that may indicate sympathetic dominance. But then what do we do about it? So the SD protocol book by Wayne Todd really goes through the protocol that really will help to calm these guys in the back seat down. So we're actually going to go through some of that next week with you. So some of the things that you can do if you think that this may be a bit of an issue, if you're not sure, so just do feel free to contact us.
Get your checklist, go through it, and that way next week when we bring you some things of how to combat these, you've got some things to actually look for in our video as well.
And we're finding we're getting fabulous results because we as chiropractors are looking at the physical stress, but we are more than just one aspect. We need to look at the mind, body, spirit, and we need to look at physical, chemical, emotional. So, when we look at all of those, we're going to get better results with your health.
And I have to say, I find a lot of the patients that we see in practice, their physical symptoms are manifesting from their emotional health. It's like 9 times out of 10.
Oh, even more.
There's a huge 10 out of 10. It's always an emotional component that comes into play with how you're feeling. So
it's just getting that awareness out there. This is really, really important for you to understand and to get in control of your own health. So it's really important to understand how that mind affects the body and that you have got some control. So guys, we hope you have enjoyed our video. Dr. Britt, you've done a fabulous job, and we will see you all next time. Was there anything else, Dr. Britt?
No, I think that was good. Make sure you message us about the checklist. That's a good place to start from, and stay tuned for next week. We'll give you some things on how to fix these symptoms that are arising for you as well.
Beautiful. All right, guys, take care. We'll see you next time. Bye then.